I've got to admit, the amount of videos out there with thumbnails questioning whether this machine is a better pick than a Bamboo is, well, it's rather astounding. And I'm not having a go, with no disrespect at all to my fellow creators. After all, I've used the same clickbait just to get views on my videos. I just want to save you the time for those people wondering. No, it isn't. Thanks for watching, please tune in next week. But seriously, how close is it? Well, Creality certainly are getting there, and are probably the closest brand to toppling the current king of 3D printers. But what is it that they're missing? Well, honestly, they're tripping themselves up here, but not enough that this printer should be completely ignored by everyone, because for a subset of printing enthusiasts, this will be a far more appealing product than anything Bamboo offers. So hi, I'm Ross, and this is Fohammer Videos. So forgive me if this video seems a little phoned in, it's not intended that way, but honestly, this isn't a massive upgrade from the K1 that I reviewed just a few months ago. And if Creality are going to essentially re-release a more robust version of that printer, then, well, it's probably worth me just saying go and watch that previous video so we can all just focus on the new stuff here. But let's quickly recap for anyone who hasn't seen that video or that printer. Unlike other creators who got their K1 early, I was late to the party, and thankfully, this meant I didn't have any of the issues that other people faced. I feel that they were treated more like beta testers than reviewers, just due to how many problems people reported with those early machines. And the K1 and the K1C, well, they're the same enclosed Core XY FDM printer with a build volume of 220 by 220 by 250 millimeters. And it works. It worked decently well for what I wanted to do with it. But the fan on the hot end is, well, it's so incredibly loud. I'd actually forgotten how loud this was until I cracked out the K1C. And the point is, you aren't going to want to be in the same thing when this thing's running, even if you have air extraction set up. It has a quiet mode, but, well, consider that as slow printing mode, where other printers can print fast whilst being quieter. And like always, I'm going to qualify this video, but I'm not going to apologize for it anymore. I'm someone who is more into 3D printing parts than wanting to play around with tweaking and tinkering with a printer, and my videos are aimed at people with a similar mindset. Now, with that earlier model, I also like that Creality's version of Cura was a more simplified UI with many of the complex parameters hidden behind several layers of menu. It keeps things simple for the beginner, but leaves everything accessible should you eventually want to tweak some less than basic settings. For the most part, this Creality print desktop app is load a model and choose your material type, send the print to the machine remotely, and you can monitor it from the same app. In my previous video, I also had a rant about the Creality Cloud Phone app, which was horrible then and is still horrible now. But anyway, that's that. I generally liked my K1 apart from how loud it was. My favour of it was generally because, well, it was easy to use. Would I pick it over its direct competitor printer? No. Two reasons. One is that the current leading brand is still light years ahead of this in terms of user experience, by not only having a much better user experience with the PC and phone apps designed far more tightly than what we have here, but they also have an entire knowledge base for their product should you encounter issues, which will guide you to the solution step by step. And that brand has shown commitment to those machines by continually improving what these do years after release. Creality still have some work to do in that regard in order to win back consumer trust, having truncated support on previous machines far sooner than many of us wish they would have. And reason two is that where other brands have grown in the last several months since the K1 was released, Creality have only managed to move so far as, yeah, this is kind of okay now. And that brings us on to the K1C. Setup wise, this is identical to the K1 in every way. Remove the foam, unbolt the bed, attach the door handle, the screen, and the filament reel holder. That's it. When I was first shown the printer, I was given a picture where there's a little box next to the printer with 2 reels of filament in. This same picture is the one you see now on the K1C's webpage, but the picture I had did not have the word optional above this accessory. So I instantly assumed this was a small AMS, and Creality are releasing a printer with a multi-color option. But the C does not mean color, it means carbon, and this accessory is no more than an optional filament dryer box. And whilst this is an optional accessory, this or something like it would be incredibly handy considering the K1C still mounts its filament reels on the back of the machine. Yes, they give you a printable reel holder that goes on the side, but it seems like lazy design, like they couldn't be bothered to add the extra plastic, even though they knew that the original layout was terrible. Anyway, I don't remember having so much of an issue loading filament in my original K1, but trying to get this filament through the runout sensor on the back was an absolute pain here, as it kept missing the PTFE tube on the back end of that sensor. That doubles how awkward it already is to swap new filament in. It was then that I realised that even with Creality's dry box accessory, you won't actually get a sealed system from dry box to hot end, and that's due to a gap between the sensor and the next PTFE tube. It's not the biggest issue, and I doubt this would attract that much moisture into the filament reel, but still, it's odd that this was designed to allow a gap where all other brands with a similar build style for their sensors have a sealed in and out. This is an annoyance we really don't need on a modern printer. Now, when it comes to the upgraded features in the K1C, well, they've added the camera by default. You can get this as an add-on for the K1, which I did, but now it comes as standard. That's kind of cool. You can make okay time lapses, but your options for this are pretty much on or off. Again, somewhere that competing brands have the option of smooth time lapses, which park the hot end between layers rather than having it judder about the place through the entire sequence. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad by any stretch, it's just a preference that you don't have here, which makes it comparatively limited. But they also boast some AI features that come with this. I remember on my K1 that the printer warned me there was a print on my bed one time before I started printing because I'd forgotten about it. But features like spaghetti detection and first layer detection are still in beta on the K1C. These limited time-lapse functions and beta-level AI features are exactly what I'm talking about in regard to their limited software growth in all this time. And oddly, there's no LiDAR on this upgraded unit. I guess this may still be coming out. It was rumoured to come for the K1 at some point as an optional upgrade, but we still haven't seen it. It's already there on the K1 Max, and the idea behind this component is that it should be able to help calibrate flow rate and deliver better bed adhesion, but I never really had an issue with adhesion between the K1 and the K1 Max anyway. Again though, maybe I was lucky with my K1. This is another potential example of limited growth, as I would have expected to have had it by now, or maybe this just isn't happening. Now, another upgrade is the advertised tri-metal unicorn nozzle, and the website's own poorly optimized low-resolution full-screen image of this nozzle system advertises a one-handed swap. And can you swap it one-handed like some online shorts show? No, you can't. Okay, well, arguably you can, but only after you unscrew the fascia, remove the shoe from the nozzle, and loosen it with a hex wrench. And yes, you need to remove the cover, which has screws, not magnets, otherwise you can't get the shoe back on when you replace it. Honestly, I've got to ask, am I being stupid here? Am I missing something? Because this is arguably harder than to swap nozzles from a few generations ago, because this one has a significantly longer thread, so therefore it takes longer to unscrew than those older ones. I don't get what the benefit is here. What am I missing? Where am I being stupid? But presuming I'm not being stupid, and this is a bit of a crazy claim, on the subject of absolute BS claims on the webpage, Creality claim the out-of-box experience can take you from unboxing to powering on in 3 minutes. Let me think of an appropriate and articulate response to that. Shut up, Creality. I absolutely love the fact that they qualify this claim with data from Creality Lab. Like, what is in this lab environment that changes it so much from home and gets it down to 3 minutes? Did they use an F1 pit crew to do the unboxing? The only way that this is even possible is if they unboxed it and plugged it in before removing any of the foam or bed retaining screws. Honestly, in reflection, is that it? Is that how they got away with this claim? Because the out-of-box experience on the screen walks you through the removal of this component. Is that honestly how they're saying it's 3 minutes? Jesus Christ. Sorry to blaspheme, but if you know me, you know I get triggered by over-eccentric marketing claims, and this one takes the cake. And this is why Creality just don't understand the market. Be honest with me, if you're out there and you bought this printer because the setup claimed to be only 3 minutes, where other printers claim 15 minutes or more, if that claim swayed your purchase towards this at all, please let me know in the comments, because aside from sarcasm and jokes, I expect that to be 0 people. So, what else have they done? Well, they've got stronger motors for the Z-axis rails. Cool. I didn't have an issue before, but others have, and this is a decent mechanical upgrade. And the UI has had some enhancement, but this is mostly translation based, and I only noticed because I didn't notice translation issues that I knew existed when I tested the K1. The UI in general is nice, it's fairly intuitive. I can't really knock it. If anything, I'd say to weaker 3D printer brands, this is what OK looks like. Like, that is par. You need to do this minimum and then go from there. But anyway, I need to call out the most amusing upgrade, and this is in the door and the hinges. The hinges are now dampened to prevent the door swinging open, and in the case that it does and hits something, there's now an anti-shatter film built in. And all of this exists because of Uncle Jesse's somewhat famous door smashing incident with his K1 Max. I hope people of the future study this as an example of what a professional response to a meme looks like. Now, I'm joking, but to be fair, these are sensible improvements. Now, the one other thing I care about is the inclusion of a silicone wiping strip, which, well, it's just glued onto the back of the build plate. But that brings me to the funniest part of this whole offering. It's called the K1C because it's made for carbon reinforced filaments. But the build plate they give you with this machine is for PLA. It says it right there on the build plate, for PLA. And that type of build plate is the only one you can get for this machine from Creality right now. And yes, you can get other plates from third parties, including those plates that work on the K1, but this printer is expecting a silicone wiping strip, which Creality doesn't currently sell. Like, come on, Creality. Really? You are literally why I hate the term influencer, because an influencer would probably ignore all of this and exist to promote your product. I'm trying to be objective, I'm trying my hardest to show people all the benefits of your machine, but you are making my job so difficult. I'm literally talking to you like an angry dad would talk to his kids. I don't know what else to say. Like, does nobody look at these and realize how dumb this is before it goes to market? We are releasing the K1C. Cool, what does the C mean? The C means carbon. Oh, great, so the printer prints carbon and it's made for carbon. Yeah. Well, what about the build plate that's made for PLA? No one noticed that. Okay, let's move on. Now, this printer does have one saving grace. It's not one for me, but it exists, and I would be unfair to completely ignore it. And whilst I've been somewhat sour on this machine, I don't hate it, I do like it. It printed carbon reinforced PLA just fine. It printed a large and complex model with great results and detail. But I'm a printer critic, and there's a lot to critique here that just doesn't need to exist. My attitude towards this is not against the performance or the hardware. That's fine. But Creality has trained its consumers to trust only that they'll release new products, spend a few months improving them, and then move on to the next product. And this redo of the K1 echoes that same message. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like this printer, I really do, and in the whole myriad of options available out there, this is the only one I'd recommend that doesn't belong to the current king brand of 3D printers. And where this will appeal to people is that, well, it is a fairly decently built bit of kit, and it is better than the K1, although some design choices, or at least release or marketing choices, have been a bit daft. It's a fairly decent bit of kit, and also Creality have made it open source. So if you're wanting an open source printer and a pro open source printers, this, I think, should be a solid top pick for you. As for me, I want a working printer which is supported thoroughly for a long time and is continually and regularly enriched with regular software and firmware updates, one that has tidy support and an expansive, curated and managed knowledge base. And that's not what this is. So it's not bad, I do like it, but it's just not quite the right one for me and what I want from a printer. If it's what you want, that's totally fine. I completely understand why people want more open choices. And I'm far from anti-Creality, because I'd still pick the K1 Max as the best current larger format FDM printer I've used, despite it not having some of these new features. So, do you think we'll see a K1C Max? I want to say thanks for watching, and thanks to our members who are on screen now. If you'd like to support the channel and my general rantings about why you should and shouldn't buy certain pieces of crap from overseas and instead buy other pieces of crap from overseas, then please subscribe below to continue supporting my musings and general rants. Thank you again for your time. Until next time, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Fohammer out.